They want how much for this kid's loft bed? Just in time for back to school, huh? No, sir.
What was the last one? D-Tron did this.
I like that one.
Okay.
Welcome back to another episode of D-Tron Does It. Of course, I am D-Tron and I does stuff. And this week, I am in one of my kids' room and we're doing a makeover in here. And that's not what today's video is about. Today's video is about putting together this junior loft bed. So I'm going to show you how we put it together as a part of a room renovation that we're doing for my son because it's plain in here. We wanted to make it feel warm and inviting and fun. So that's what we're going to do. But today's video, all about putting together a loft bed. I'll link the loft bed down in the descriptions in case you're interested. All right, let's get started.
All right, so to get started, got to get the old bed out of here. I got some little helpers or some little getting awayers, however you want to look at it. Once we got the old bed out of there, I was able to break open this new box, and there is a lot of wood, as you can imagine. You can put together this whole project with just an Allen wrench and a screwdriver. What I'm doing here, you don't have to do, but I am separating out my pieces for what goes together. At the bottom of each piece is actually labeled with a letter, and that corresponds with the letter inside of the instructions. Here is your hardware. It's all organized really well. As you can imagine, for something that comes from Amazon, it usually is organized pretty well. It doesn't always tell you the instructions very well, but it's organized. Here I am putting together the headboard. It is held in place with these wood dowels. So you put these wood dowels in and that keeps it steady. And then it'll give you a chance to put some of these lag bolts on the outside of the headboard. You use them all across this project. They come with several. So here you can see me putting one in the side of the headboard. Make sure you pay attention to the instructions because the headboard and the end of the bed need to be put together in a certain way so that the pieces line up together. As you can see here, I'm having a little bit of trouble trying to use that Allen wrench on the headboard piece. So I put one of my pieces of wood underneath it and it gave me the ability to rotate this thing all the way around. It made putting this thing together much faster. So I would advise, if you're trying to do this project on the floor, definitely have something that you can wedge underneath while you're trying to twist this Allen wrench. It'll make your life a whole lot easier. So once I got the headboard put together, I had to assemble the other end of the bed, the footboard, I guess that's what you guys call it, maybe. I don't know, the end of the bed. And that went together the exact same way. Again, there are certain pieces that go in certain spots, so make sure you check out the instructions when you do that. One of the things that I did here once I got this thing put together is I had to put the two side pieces on. And working by myself on this portion, I basically just tilted it. If you tilt it properly, you can actually get the metal insert that goes into this bottom hole in place and use that lag bolt to really line it up. So that's what I'm doing here, is putting those bolts in, and there is again a metal holder inside of each one of those holes to catch that bolt. I got my wife to come and help me with this portion because I didn't want the pieces dangling like that one in the back was. She just held it up for me for a second, that way I can get the bolts in to secure it in place. On this portion, the back of the bed, there's something I have to note or tell you. There are small pre-drilled holes on those two top panels. Make sure those holes are facing outward because you will have to add a support bracket in the back, and if those holes aren't facing outward, you will have to undo this whole thing to try to get them out. I know from experience. So make sure you got the holes facing out when you install it. As far as the bed slats, so this thing is interesting. It's not like an IKEA bed where you sort of just set them in there. You actually are going to have to screw these slats into the bed frame of this loft bed. So here I'm just putting them into place, of course, but there are holes in the top and bottom of this thing. These slats are pre-drilled. You need to place the large hole facing upward. I don't know if the instructions say that. I didn't see it anywhere, but definitely want to put the large hole facing upward. It goes at a slant. If you put it facing upward, that slant will lead the screw right into the side of the loft bed where it's supposed to go. If you flip it the other way, it's going to fall straight through. But you'll have to screw all of these slats into the loft bed frame. And then once you got those in, you go to the back, and this is that support brace that I was mentioning you're going to need to secure. Then to the front of this thing, you got to put in a support brace on the front of the loft bed as well. Here I'm just securing it with the screws, that way I can hold it in place for enough time for me to go to the end and secure these bolts. Once I secured the bolts, I went back down and tightened up that brace in the middle, but I just put it in place so that I can hold it up because there is no other support for this thing until you put your ladder on. Speaking of your ladder, this was probably the more difficult part of putting together this thing, and not for the steps. The steps are really easy. You're just going to put a bolt and wood dowels on the inside of these two steps and you're good to go. The more difficult part was up at the top, which I'll show you here in just a second. Getting all of the bolts to tighten at the same time, because the height was just slightly off on the pre-drilled holes. I had to tighten a little on the bottom, then go up and tighten at the top, tighten some more in the middle, go back down to the bottom. So it took a couple of different tries to be able to get this thing tightened up just right, and I did have to play around with it a little bit. But once I finally got it in the right space, I was able to tighten them all up and really get it secured. But this part took me a lot longer than I'm showing you here, but it just took a while to really get those holes lined up. After you get those holes lined up, then we'll go in and we'll tighten the screws that are holding the steps together, make sure that those are all secure. I actually went and got a different Allen wrench tool because it was making my life really difficult trying to use the one that came included in this kit. Once you've got all of those things tightened up, you have now put together your whole bed.
All right, so the loft bed is all put together. Now I just have to go get the mattress and get my kid and let him test it out.
This room is actually not for my son here. It's for my other son, but he was so excited to help out. So I let him help. He even got to test the bed out for the first time.
Mama, this is what Kason does. He climbs up.
Wow, Bubba.
You get to do this. 1, 2, 3. You can either jump off that.
Don't jump off.
No.
It's not for jumping off.
Okay.
Climbing up and sleeping.
All right, so the loft bed is already put together. As you can see, my kids have already begun putting stuff underneath said loft bed. I think it's gonna work out great. We'll see next couple nights, make sure that we don't have any stumbles or tumbles out of the top of this thing, but looking like a go. As always, please like, share, subscribe, hit that notification button, get alerts, find out when we're doing other videos. And if you decide not to do any of that, I won't be mad at you. So next time, guys, peace.
A base.